Dublin. Everyone are you online? I'm looking around. It's good to be here. There's a real difference in the ecosystem. Everybody who's here. There's a couple of different challenges, of course. We've discussed trust. We've discussed, well, not discussed pricing exactly, but we've touched on all of these themes. So I'd just like to bring up Nick once again from Mobile Squared. You're going to be sick and tired of him, but his data's pretty good. And of course, I'd like to welcome David up as well from WebEx.
More eye candy. Thank you very much.
So it's essentially a panel, nice and easy. We've all been here before, but really, there are challenges facing the industry. We've got the trust, we've got pricing issues, we've got opportunities in business adoption as well. You always chat about that, Nick. But actually, there's a lot of, I would say, negativity in the ecosystem. But what can we do to flip that on its head, actually? So what can we do when we think about creating new SMS revenues? We've chatted that, okay, we're potentially challenged on 7 billion, gambling that 7 billion from your presentation earlier today. What can we do? How can we actually not gamble that, but actually sustain it and move ahead? So, Joanna, do you want to take this first one?
Yeah, new messaging revenues for operators is obviously a hot topic, as a lot of operators these days are facing an erosion, a decline, especially in their international A2P revenues. And therefore, very often, I mean, we spoke about it earlier today, very often the easiest way to increase that revenue is to actually increase the termination rate, which doesn't help the generation of the new traffic. We spoke a lot, I think Nick mentioned earlier during his presentation, and I speak very often to our customers and partners about the dependency of the international A2P channel on the verification traffic. And as we look globally at the non-O2P in international channel, it's dropping as the prices are going higher and higher. So it's a big challenge to bring back the use cases that have been dropped over time. So my take on this is, as the operators are outsourcing the dialogue with the brand to a very fragmented and diversified aggregation layer, there is no discussion about what can potentially be recovered, what new use cases can be created on that international channel, for instance. So direct engagement with brands and engagement with the right CPaaS providers that have the best brand interests in their agendas, I think is the strategy that the operators should follow on the international A2P side. And then on the international and domestic channel, I think we spoke about WhatsApp and their new pricing model. It's very attractive in comparison to the traditional SMS transaction fee when there's no differentiation in pricing, and only in some markets there is a debate for international versus domestic definition. So I would say, yeah, direct engagement with brands, creating more attractive pricing models, and incentivizing that traffic that is at the moment not being sent, because it's being emailed and push notifications and all these other more attractive channels. Sorry, guys, what's your take on that?
Go on, you go.
All right then. I think you have spoken most of the morning.
Let Nick rest a bit.
I think it's, for me, Ira's point about transparency, not necessarily just pricing, but about what it takes to deliver an SMS. Most enterprises, when you go and you speak to someone, if they've never used business messaging before, they're like, oh, I can send an SMS on my phone anywhere in the world, right?
Like Oli.
Yeah. You can just click, send, done. And then you start talking about long numbers, you start talking about short codes, you start talking about firewalls, you start talking about registration. And we're not, I think, as an industry, massively transparent about that. Cisco acquired IMI, which is the company that I work for about 2 years ago. I spent a lot of that 2 years educating the Cisco team on what it takes to deliver an SMS, how you now go about making sure that you are a trusted, open partner with the right delivery rates that isn't doing all of these items. And that question about, well, how come I can go and get you tell me that's the ceiling price, that's the bottom price. How come X competitor can go and get half a cent under that? And then you go into it and then you explain. Our expectation as consumers is set by our experience. So when we're using a peer-to-peer network, we get used to peer-to-peer services. A2P is a very different ballgame. I think we have to be very, very open about the value we add as delivery partners, value we add as security services, value we add from routing partners, and make sure the enterprise understands that. CPaaS, and I spend all of my time talking about rich messaging channels normally. Future of messaging. I stole the name from James. That's what I spend my time talking about. SMS is a massive part of the future of messaging. We have to make sure that it remains trusted. I mean, your stat that you showed this morning, 90% of traffic is white. 90% of traffic.
Fraud-free.
Fraud-free, sorry. But 90% of traffic is fraud-free. Go and search SMS smishing on your phone. Go and search SMS trustworthiness. Stick it into Google. Top 10 results will be SMS is not a trusted platform. It's got problems. We know that's not really representative of what we've done as an industry. Can we do better? Of course we can. But if your delivery is missed, this is my favourite metaphor for it. If your delivery is missed, the delivery company you're using is crap. If you go and look at their delivery, they probably delivered 99.5% of their parcels first time. But those people that got their delivery don't speak up. The people that had the problem speak up. So we have to be very conscious about educating our enterprises about the realistic risks of using SMS and the real value that it layers, and then get them ready to move on to those use cases into the rich channels when it's appropriate.
While keeping it simple,
yes.
Right? Because you mentioned that this is quite difficult. I mean, I think we had it from Uber yesterday saying, we wanted to have a common sender, a common shortcut for all the markets. We know that's not possible, but for an enterprise, it's not that straightforward.
It doesn't make sense.
I agree with you, yeah.
But we have to make that message as simple for someone like Uber, with, what was the number, 150 million contacts, and the people that have 1,000. Because the information should be the same.
So how can we enforce that?
How can we enforce that? Enforce what in particular?
Well, essentially, then, how can we lock it down? How can we monetize it?
Yeah, I think whatever the commercial strategy is, it is just a strategy. If there is no enforcement in place, then that strategy is deemed useless. Basically, we've seen markets trying to implement more complex pricing models in the past, and they have failed because there was no enforcement. And if that enforcement doesn't happen, and by the way, when I speak about enforcement, I don't necessarily just consider enforcement simply blocking a message. From enforcement and monetization partner provider, we don't like blocking messages on the firewall. We just spoke about this. I mean, Tim has spoke about this, that it can also happen, that the message does not get delivered because it gets blocked on the firewall. This is not a desired scenario. Enforcement can be also commercial enforcement. So if you have the full visibility of the traffic that is passing through your network and the full categorization of this traffic, and you know exactly what brands and which traffic streams are descending to your network, then you can bill and charge them correctly without actually impacting the delivery, the user experience, and without losing that revenue from that particular message that has not been delivered.
Yeah, I mean, if an enterprise has what they might consider a simple notification use case, content's always the same, messages are only ever sent between 10 and 11, should they pay the same price for that as an OTP message, which they need to have on the ultra-fast, low-latency connection? But should they have to do more development work to connect to two separate services to have those different things? I don't think so. They can come to an appropriate solution which will recognise the type of traffic that it is, treat it appropriately, and tag it with an appropriate price. So making it as incredibly simple for an enterprise to adopt and to use, but getting the absolute best value for each of the use cases that they're trying. And we can make that as automated as possible. And in some cases, it will mean we'll uplift it and we'll send it via a different channel, because that might be appropriate. But for SMS, there's absolute value in differentiating the types of things it's being used for.
Yeah, there should be a simplicity on the operator side. Sadly, the operators are lacking that technology. A lot of operators are lacking that technology at the moment. And there is this underlying fear of cannibalizing their existing revenues, because we know that what happens if operators implement even international versus domestic pricing arbitrage, then if the network is relatively open, they don't enforce it properly, then we will have a leakage of just generic brands and bypass of, I'm not going to go too much into detail of how the bypass happens these days, we're all aware. But it will happen, so they feel that they will be eroding the premium channel. So it should be both easy on the enterprise, and then operators need to have the technology to serve that enterprise. But traditionally, operators are ill-equipped to do that. So there's the role of the CPaaS.
Absolutely.
Important. Nick?
Come on, you want to say something now?
No, just listen.
Okay. So essentially, then, is flat pricing really a result of inflexible billing systems?
To an extent, I think, in my experience, it's what the enterprises have come to expect. They've come to expect flat pricing. And because that's what the mobile networks have offered, whether it's because of technology, whether it's because of intention. But you have seen absolute cases where people have brought innovative pricing models to market. And enterprises have been keen, as long as they can predict and they can measure what their likely outcomes are going to be. Because one of the most difficult things about talking about rich messaging is say, okay, well, how much is that going to cost me? Okay, well, how many conversations are you going to have? And that's almost impossible. You know, enterprises are incredibly difficult to predict. Whereas SMS volume, actually, I think, certainly the ones that are using it find it much easier to predict that kind of volume. So actually, differentiated pricing based on use case can have a real appeal to the enterprise if it's simple for them and if it's backed by the mobile operators.
Is differentiated pricing a savior for SMS?
No, I think it's part of the puzzle for me. It's not the one and only thing. You know, there are other models. Different operators in the room have tried different things. You know, offering completely free services as part of a package of wider services that they're offering. So we've seen that for staff messaging, where a mobile operator is providing the mobile handsets to an enterprise's staff. They offer them free communication with their staff as part of that package. Mm-hmm. You know, that might be part of it. Others is adding in value for banking brands. So before you submit an SMS, you do your SIM swap. You know, if your SIM swap rules apply, then you can make the decision for them on to send it or to send it back and say, try something else. So there's other ways to add additional value into that chain, additional protections, make the most of the investments that the operators and aggregators have made to add value and to make sure that message is secure and safe.
I have a question for you. Can I take
Yeah.
What do you think about approach as follows? Verified user. Is that a topic that can be valid for SMS? We see the increase on the OTT side, you know, what the Metas and Twitters are doing. They're adding value for verified user in their own ways. Yeah. Can this be implemented as a charging model in SMS? What's your opinion?
I think it can, but I think at the moment you want to attract businesses onto SMS. That's the key thing. Just get them using it. This is part of the problem. In that a lot of businesses don't really understand what the use case would be for them, why they would use it. And, you know, typically most businesses will be using email from a marketing perspective. Yeah. So then if you then look at the cost to communicate with your database, would you potentially use email or SMS? You know, and it comes down to, I guess, scale is going to be a key thing, and kind of what's your available budget. So, you know, you can talk to enterprise, and they're lucky enough that they've probably got enough budget that they can use multiple channels. Yeah. You know, from our CPaaS research, you can see that typically it is SMS plus one, and that plus one will be email or voice, and then then email, voice, SMS, other channel, and then ultimately, you know, you don't have that many large enterprises that actually use everything
No.
yet.
Oh.
So, you know,
Yeah,
the
you're
opportunity
very
for everything and CPaaS is huge. But with SMS, you're looking at so few companies that are using it, and they should use it. You know, a small florist,
Why is that?
just
Why is that?
because no one's reaching out to them. You know, but then, you know, I've spoken to companies in the room, and they say, well, we can't do everything.
of
We
course.
can't go out and just reach the really kind of the micro companies that, you know, also prop up most economies in the world.
So do you think operators should play a role to because operators have massive reach, much bigger than a CPaaS, a technology vendor like ourselves. Should they go and promote their own channels?
Operators are trusted brands.
Yes,
So in theory,
that's my
it
point.
makes sense for them to do that, but then, you know, it comes back to, I guess, the point that we raised a few years ago, that messaging for most operators is 2% of their overall revenue.
Yeah.
Depends
But,
on
you
what
know,
side
but the
of the
margins
world,
on that are
massive,
massive.
yeah.
So, you know, it's a really tough one to call. But someone needs to be going out there and selling to the enterprise because there should be really strong growth, certainly now, because, you know, where spend is, you know, brand spend follows where people live, you know, kind of what they're consumed by, and people are consumed in messaging now.
This is exactly what WhatsApp has been doing with their business APIs since 2021. They've been organizing in different markets, different geographies, actual workshops on how to use WhatsApp business messaging.
But they've controlled the environment really well.
Yeah.
Very
You
well.
know, because they have been, obviously he's talking about other fraudulent channels, and, you know, but just by making sure that, A, you've got to build your own opt-in database, is obviously key, but, you know, it was primarily an inbound channel for customer care. You know, and that's a really great way of kind of introducing this as a service from a user perspective, because IVR, and typically, you know, dealing with an agent can be very, very painful.
Yeah.
Anyone who's in the UK and is a Sky customer will know exactly what I'm talking about. But
Pete's not in the audience anymore, right?
Oh, is he? Is he?
Has he gone? Yeah. Oh, no, he's there. He's at the back, I think. Whoops.
He knows, anyway. You know, it's triple. But if you can shift that conversation onto WhatsApp, it's brilliant. And then gradually, you know, they've started to control how brands use it. You've got templates, which is maybe a bit too controlling from my perspective, but, you know, ultimately it's keeping it a very clear channel, and brands are starting to really kind of embrace that now.
We speak about a trust factor in SMS channel. WhatsApp channel is not immune to fraud. I get myself fraud on WhatsApp all the time right now. And they suffer from SIM-box problem, sort of generic sender ID problem as well. Difficult to enforce in an app that it's encrypted.
But don't
by
forget, a lot of
the-
businesses use their own personal WhatsApp.
Yep.
So technically,
Yes,
that's a
yeah.
grey market. So there is a
So
grey
as a
market in
broadcast,
WhatsApp.
So as
So-
a broadcasting tool, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's B2B WhatsApp.
I mean, but I think what WhatsApp are very, very good at doing is promoting the things that they have done well. You know, they differentiate between small and medium and large-scale enterprises. You can go, and if you go and download from the App Store, WhatsApp Business Message, and you can run your business very legitimately from there, get the benefits of all the, sort of, this is a business account, this is encrypted end-to-end. And the thing is, the PR for the end user is, this is an encrypted and safe channel.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment with SMS, the first time there is a fraud story, I think the last one in the UK took down a voice fraud website. They were going to contact everybody that was potentially a victim of it, and they're going to do it by SMS. There were 3 paragraphs in the BBC newspaper write-up saying, this is how you spot a genuine one, be careful, fraudsters might use this opportunity to contact you. So immediately you're undermining that channel in the minds of the public. When we know from the statistics, and we know from the work that we've put in, it is a safe channel. Yes, there are things you have to watch for. Yes, there are things you have to look out for. But it is a safe channel.
How do we get that message out?
I think
That's a difficult question.
because SMS has been around for a long time, A2P SMS has been around for a fairly long time as well.
Yeah.
And everyone assumes that, you know, kind of go back 10 years before we were looking at the space, but, you know, there were all these predictions A2P SMS is going to die.
Yeah.
And yet here we are, it's still here, it's growing, and it's, in theory, getting stronger and stronger.
And the potential to grow is incredible.
But I think the issue is, because it's always been there, everyone's assumed that actually it's quite a mature technology or a mature platform. That actually maybe we're looking at it the wrong way, it's immature, and that we're only really starting to truly understand what it is and what it can do for us, for businesses now. Because if you think all of a sudden a one-time password, brilliant. What a great way of sending something like that to a user. Perfect. Just as a delivery mechanism for, from Amazon. Perfect. It's really simple. Part of the issue I think we've always had is that SMS has never been seen as sexy. It doesn't get an award at Cannes Lions, does it? Yeah. From the advertising world, no one gets an award for coming up with something for 160 characters. So all of a sudden, all the creatives in the world, they're spending their time around social, around TV, apps, etc., trying to create these amazing campaigns. But ultimately, all the while, there's this dirty little secret, almost, which is A2P SMS, and its effectiveness that's been operating almost kind of in stealth mode. Now, all of a sudden, it needs to come to the fore and actually say this is a really strong, powerful channel, and it is also going to be the platform for all of the rich messaging that will evolve from it. So it's a mindset change.
Yeah, I often, when you go in and you start talking about the plethora of channels that are out there, particularly when you talk about RCS and you talk about WhatsApp, or you go and talk about Apple, the immediate question is, well, how do I make sure I reach everyone? And that is still the way you can now say SMS is will probably be the last completely non-sign-up ubiquitous channel. Because even with an email address, you have to go and find yourself a provider, you have to put your information in, you have to go and sign up. SMS, you buy a SIM card, you put it in your phone, turn it on, you got SMS. And it will remain an important part of that messaging mix as long as it's trusted. And there are distinct reasons to move to rich messaging in the right place. When you have that conversation with a brand, you look at whether they've got a push app, whether they're lucky enough to be in an industry where someone keeps the app on their phone, they're probably their most valuable customers. That might be their first port of call. They might have a strong Apple user base. They absolutely should be using that channel. It's the best on any iDevice by a country mile. But they might be in a country that doesn't have a huge smartphone penetration. They might be in a market where Android and iOS are fighting the competition and going back and forth. They might have a degree of older handsets. We, as an industry, as a CPaaS provider, it's certainly what Cisco attempts to do, is to make sure that the message, the content, the important thing is put onto the customer's phone on the best message possible. And SMS right now, and certainly for the foreseeable, is going to be the default bottom line. You need to get something to a person. That is what you need to use.
It's a very interesting point. I will take off my hot hat for a minute and I will put my consumer user hat for a moment. So I'm based in London. I suffer from notification overload, typical unique congested screen problem. Turn off all my notifications. I have endless amount of WhatsApp chats, groups. I don't even want to go to my WhatsApp most of the time. I have lots of social media apps, etc., etc. I like this restaurant in London Bridge. It's called Padella. It's a very nice Italian restaurant. If you haven't been, I recommend. Lovely. But it's in London. You have to queue for everything. There's an app for it. The app is called, it's a third generation. They've been acquired so many times. Dojo, I believe. Right. Walk up. So you put your name, phone number, you have to stay in the 1 kilometer radius, and they will tell you when they have the table ready. Obviously, I don't have this app on my phone. Maybe I have it, it's not updated, I haven't downloaded it. But what they do is interesting, because I went to get a drink somewhere else, and within 30 minutes, I received 6 or 7 HP messages from that application called Dojo, because they were sending me notification in the app that I think did not have on my phone or did not open, just with a URL. I know, tricky and smishing subject, but of course I was expecting, I knew the name of that, clicked the link, I got to the web page, I have a conversation, and for every single message they send me on the web page, they send me an ATP message. I thought to myself, okay, that must have costed them about £1 or so. I'm not sure about the UK rates at the moment. But it's a great investment, because this is a very popular restaurant. If I don't come back, they lose money, right? They cannot sell the table. So it's so interesting that I get the message because it's delivered over SMS. I would probably lost that notification elsewhere. And I think a lot of suffer from that amount of channels, the rich channels.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of my favourite games. When you go and meet a new group of people, they all get their phones out on the desk because you tell them, "Go on, I'm going to give you a demo to go and try. Go and have a look." And you have a look. Go and look at their red bubbles. See which one's biggest. Which one do they let queue? It's always email.
Email.
So the winner was, I don't know whether he's still in the room, but Jason Lunn, colleague of mine. I never email him. It was in good 4 figures. He was the winner. He always had the highest number. Until I met a lovely lady from our American office last week who was in 5 figures, 48,550.
Wow.
And it didn't bother her in the slightest. It bothered me just looking at it. But it holds true in most rooms.
True, yeah.
We let our email queue. WhatsApp is still, although it's growing, it is a personal app still.
I've got over 100,000 unread emails.
Fuck. Sorry. Oh, well, shouldn't have. Really? That would bring me out of sweat just looking at that. Okay.
They're just unread.
Yeah. Never emailing you again. But it holds true when you start to talk about people. Go and have a look. Everybody in this room has checked their messaging today. Someone's doing it right now. Igor's got his phone out. Thought we were being interesting. But we check our messages on a regular basis. Email we tend to slot into periods that we have.
We know
So that perfect use case, wandering away from a restaurant, it's like, okay, well, I need you back here, otherwise I'm giving your table to somebody else, bing, bing, bing. And the value to that business
And I had
is
a
measured in...
conversation with this restaurant. That's an interesting part, because I always think of SMS, it's not sexy from the user perspective. But they took me to this webpage, and I had a conversation. Every time I was getting the new message, they were sending me notification and an SMS form that I have read, and that amazed me.
But that's it, it's the value exchange. We do not talk about that as an industry.
It was not even like a long code, short code sort of, it was very simple, a link, webpage, conversation.
But if you look at something like RCS, for example, we've been hung up on scale. We've got to have 50% penetration. Otherwise, what's the point? And it doesn't matter, does it, really? Because ultimately, again, when you look at TV channels, there are lots of TV channels that have adverts.
Yeah.
And a lot of the TV channels have viewership of 100,000 people. But they get adverts. So, it could be that 100,000 people is the right viewership. And, for those ads, that's the thing you've got to think about. So when you then go and talk about SMS, you've got, in the UK, 66 million people, pretty much most from the age of probably 3 these days, I don't know, but have a phone. But that's the point. So you can reach most of the population very easily. We can get all the messages about the alert system that will be going off. We will get on our phone. I think in a few days' time.
Sunday, I think. Yeah.
But again, why are they using that? Why aren't they sending email? And again, it shows, as an industry, we should be jumping on that and saying, look, this is the government are using it. And what did they turn to during COVID and lockdown? SMS. Because that's the best way of getting something out there. Yeah. So again, it's just kind of educating brands and how they can best use that channel and what that value exchange is. If we can get that right, then all of a sudden we would see the growth, and I think we'll probably also stop seeing the price increases that people are using to try and get short-term revenue gains.
Because the easiest way to increase the revenue at the moment is to increase the revenue.
Well, it's easy.
Think about your restaurant experience. So you've got 6 messages. So using your average price, 6 pence a message.
Yeah, but they'll be domestic.
Well, let's just say it's 36.
How domestic?
Well,
it's not domestic.
Let's assume it's the international rate and they're 36 pence. So that's 36p.
And the rest.
The business has just paid for that. What's the margin on the meal that they sold you? I imagine it's a popular place. Very good taste.
I'm
sure
the bit,
well, that's right. Right, someone else has
popular
covered the cost of that SMS. SMS is not expensive. We talk about SMS being
It's a
expensive.
fraction of the service. This is the point.
It's when you get to hundreds of millions of messages, then a law of big numbers, of course it's expensive. It's a big outlay for a business. We need to make sure that the value is front and centre of their decision making. That's why there is the right place for a channel mix, a right place for the use of multi-channel strategy. But SMS is still of a tremendous amount of value as the base layer.
So I've got a question for you.
Go for it.
So many, many years ago, IMI bought Text Local.
Yes, we did.
Which is a UK-based messaging service provider for SMEs. So
it's one of our most profitable pieces of software.
So how are you going out? Are you growing that user base, and how are you doing that?
So yes, we are. It's not the area of the business I'm an expert in, but absolutely, Text Local has continued. So for those of you that don't know, Text Local is a web-based interface. Search it on your phone now. You can sign up for a legitimate SMS account. There are protections and services built in. You can build surveys for free, but all driven via SMS. And it is a fabulous service. And we have, last time I looked at the numbers, so Edo, the CEO of that particular part of the business, will kill me for getting it wrong, but it was 100,000 customers. Now, some of those...
How many active?
It was closer to 50. So they do have a lot of people that sign up. They use the service for a single thing. And it might be your single user florist. It might be your dentist. It is a tiny micro businesses that are signing up. And it's loads of them. It's the long tail, the pieces of our software that run on there. But you're adding a tremendous amount of value into a really simple system. We've grown that in different territories. That's available in India, available across Europe. And the key to its success is the simplicity of it. You can sign it up, everybody, and even a tiny little business can get really quite powerful functionality to run a survey, to download items into the wallet, and we are now evolving that software. We are going to continue to upgrade it and invest in it because we do see it's one of the key feeders for large-scale enterprises. Some of our largest enterprise customers that are franchise-based, so restaurants, we started with one restaurant that signed up for that, one franchise owner, and they started to contact their local people. And the next time their regional manager came around, they went, look what we're doing. And they go, oh, I'll tell all of my other restaurants. We now have a restaurant chain that came from that point that is doing close to 10 million messages a week because they're now using it across their entire restaurant base. So there is worth the investment. And the value in there, I'll be perfectly honest, you can go and search. Text Local charge a lot more than the baseline figure that mobiles because there's more to run it. It's basically lights out system. So, but the businesses that use it still see it as tremendous value because it gives them a direct conversation or a direct way to speak to their customers.
Okay, so really, I want to understand what are the 3 most practical steps you can do if we are to avoid peak SMS by 2027. If there's takeaways we could leave this room with, what are the 3 practical steps you would do?
Do you want to start giving mobile operators advice?
Not at all. I think one, educate the marketplace, educate consumers, and I think you've got to have a consistent pricing model.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's come up, and it's going to continue to come up. If you keep changing the price, how can a brand, who obviously have to budget, how can they then budget for mobile? So if you, like I was saying, with go back 2 years, and a brand sends out 30,000 messages, and it costs them, a million messages at $30,000. Today, in several markets, that could cost them $110,000. Just send an SMS. And again, it could be that sending that SMS is worth that money. But it's so it's that value exchange. But it just comes down to education.
Yeah, make sure we're not talking about it as we're not talking about SMS as the last thing. We're not talking about it as the older, poorer channel. We should be talking about it as the true level of value that it is. And educating everybody who's sending, everybody who's receiving, and making sure that businesses, no matter what their size, know what they're getting into. They know the value that they're going to get. They know the security that they can get from it. They know the best practices. So I'm a big fan of the code of conduct, and making sure that we show that to customers. We said this: if someone's not signed up to this kind of thing, don't use them, because this is how you make sure your customers are safe. You get the most value, and you can go to your customer and say, "This is trusted."
3 E's.
Go on then.
Education, effectiveness, and engagement.
Can I add a
There you go.
technology? Because without the right technology, that none of this will be possible. And the operators need to understand that they need to upgrade the technology to enable the SMS channel to grow and to make sure that they keep it secure. And the security and the ubiquity of SMS, as it will continue, will help the channel to grow further.
Always.
Tom, what's your
There you
take?
go, that's about 6. That's enough, right?
Always. Again, I'm generally keen to understand James's point of view as well.
Do you want to join?
May I?
Take a chair.
Absolutely.
You've been
Chair.
dying to get up here. haven't you?
Yeah, I have. This is my favourite topic. It really is. Sorry, every other word. I really don't mind. This is it. Okay, very, very simply.
Yeah, I was going to say, who gave him a
I'm
chair?
going to just rattle a few things off. First of all, on the commercial model side of things, people are saying, okay, if this is the price an operator offers to the market, it's X pence. How can we see lower prices? There are situations where you will see lower prices because no one's mentioned the world of roaming. And the way mobile operators now conduct business, they've moved away, or many have moved away from simply dealing with this is my SMS, this is my voice, and this is my mobile data. They now go, okay, this is my position with, say, PTC in Poland. I'm Vodafone UK, you're PTC in Poland, and this is the position. So what's your net position every month? And you might be able to negotiate from me a really reasonable deal on SMS for a month if there's an imbalance in one other service. So there are ways that they can, unnatural commercial models for SMS can creep in. That's the first thing. Secondly, mobile operators have the most amazing, powerful brand names. In Africa, across all of Africa, MTN is the most powerful brand, full stop. That tells you something. I was just talking about with Ira, sorry I was talking in class, but I was talking with Ira about this, and there are huge opportunities for mobile operators from my perspective because of the brand names. And what I don't personally understand is why mobile operators don't all have a really, really super easy brand name, a funky brand name for business messaging, whatever it is, whatever your mobile operator name is, business messaging, done. Simple web page, simple, buy 1,000 UK SMS messages for a price, total package price of, I don't know, £30, whatever it is. Thank you very much. Pay with PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, job done. On the text local thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly that. Now, in the world of payments, because I look after the payments group at MEF as well, direct carry billing, you move to Germany, and in the world of payments, the German operators have got together to create an initiative. I think it's Zahl einfach per Handy or something like that. Pay easily with a mobile, by mobile. So all the mobile operators are super competitive, but they've clubbed together and they have advertisements going how easy it is to pay, adding your parking or whatever it is to your mobile bill. Why don't mobile operators do that with messaging? Now, we're going to be doing a tiny bit within MEF, because on the MEF website, we have RCS use cases, but we don't have anywhere for the wonderful work all you guys are doing with SMS and chat apps as well, whether it's WhatsApp or we've got Rakuten Viber as a member. So we're going to be creating new web pages on the MEF website, like we have today, all the wonderful RCS use cases with real-life brands, the likes of Frank was showcasing from all of you out there. We're going to be doing the same with SMS. And can you imagine? I want all of you to do that with your companies. Get those brand names out there and show that and show that and show that. So I think the Holy Grail will be TV adverts of how powerful SMS is and hiding in plain sight. And that's it, really. So there are no common M&O initiatives. There's no coherence, unlike the world of payments where there's more coherence. And it's a superb opportunity. And I'm a real evangelist for what Nick has been saying, where the real opportunity, we're going to be closing the event very, very soon with the last session, but the real opportunity is bringing all the companies who aren't using messaging along. And do you know what? Whether it's SMS, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Viber, whatever it is, as long as they start using something, because practically all of you out there offer multiple channels. So as long as they're using something from you, great. It doesn't matter really what it is.
Where they start and where they evolve from.
Exactly.
As soon as you see the benefits on one channel, you can realise them across them all. And
you-
the most effective program is to be where the customer already is. Yeah. If they're already using one thing, target them there.
And
Get them to engage.
Ask your customers.
Yeah, talk to them. Your end users, why that, you know, if they've got the app installed on their phone, they've kept it, they're your most loyal customers. If they're actively using it, talk to them there. That's where you should be. You know, if it is WhatsApp, great. If it's they're an Android default, if they're an iPhone device user, whatever it is, the more impactful you can be is by where they're already looking.
I think that the final thing I apologise, I'm going on, but the final thing for me, again, I'm going back to mobile operators. All of you around the world as mobile operators, I personally have received so many messages from mobile operators who are targeting me with ads which are wholly irrelevant to me, telling me there's a new housing development close to me, go and look. It's like, hello, I've been in the house, same house for 16 years, quite happy where I am. What's the point? Whereas I like Italian food, I like going to the cinema, I like this, I like that. But you don't know that, so why don't you ask me? You've got this wonderful database of subscribers. Go out to subscribers, send us an SMS with a link saying, hey, guess what? We've got a new advertising program, opt in, and you will receive messages from brands you love. We know you love. Yeah. So the power of that, if I'm an operator, I know 5 million people like Italian food. I, as an operator, my enterprise salespeople, or if I'm partnering with IMI or Cinch or Infobip, or whoever it might be, their sales guy can march into Buitoni, De Cecco, whoever, and go, hey, this operator's got 5 million people who love Italian food. So Buitoni are no longer scratching around, firing blind with TV ads, newspaper ads. They know. And those brands will be prepared to pay more than the standard 2 or 3p or whatever it might be, because you can target them. So who's doing that around the world? I can name 2 operators, and that's it.
Who?
Go on then.
Turkcell.
Turkcell,
that's a very good point. I think one in Israel.
You can only
There you
name
go.
one.
You put your chair up, you need to own
There's
both.
another one. That should be in the mobile mastermind.
It's 2.
Who's the other one?
How many? Who's the other one? I've forgotten now. But pardon?
There
Viva
we are.
Brazil. Thank you.
You've moved.
I know Turkcell was the first one. They had lots of years and years ago under the cap stuff and promotions. Anyway, we're way over. Questions?
No.
You suddenly moderated it, Tom.
But they asked.
I've just saved
Joanna and
everybody,
Tom made the mistake of asking me. Yeah.
It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
It's a great topic. Thank you.
No, we've told them everything. That's it.
We talk people
That's
to
it.
death, basically.
Well, thank you.
That's it, yeah? Okay.
Thanks, James.
No, Tom, thank you. Joanna, thank you very much. David, lovely seeing you. And Nick, thank you for everything today.
Pleasure.
Been
No, thank you very much,
really great
everyone.
figures. Thank you.